Hare Krishna, it is a pleasure to be here in Ambik again presenting at this beautiful festival, the Bhakti Sangam. And it's very interesting, like last year I had a presentation which was called Economy and the Mode of Goodness, and just before me it was Murli Gopal with a presentation called A Mathematical Model for the Three Modes of Material Nature. So it seems that there was such a fit. And this year, I wasn't really going to come to present, but my wife was going to present with the children today. They are presenting a play. And they said, why don't you make a presentation? And this presentation actually was made for North America. It was an invitation from the Bhakti Vedanta Institute in Gainesville. And their idea is, there is so much that we can learn from the fields of cow protection, agriculture, that is relevant to the world. So why don't you come and present the research opportunities on Dharma and ecology? That was the topic. So I flew all the way from India to Gainesville, made the presentation, and later on I've done it at the Bhakti Vedanta Manor, and here it is on its third edition. It gets improved as it goes, so you get a better benefit than Gainesville in that sense. And what I have to say is that the scope for research is great. The amount of fields which have an direct interfaith with ecology, with human presence on this planet, mindful living in this planet is very much within our philosophy. We do have scope, and our founder Charlie did stress that, did speak about that. So I'm going to show a few of the things that we could do which are really proactive and really have a synergy with what's happening in the world today. So it's something that we have in our hands, a very valuable tool that we could be using in a much more efficient way. So that's the intention of this presentation. I want to bring awareness to the interconnections between Dharma and ecology. And it's very interesting, again, as I mentioned, that we just discussed about evolution theory, which has been this, I could say this, black box in ISKCON. What do we think about this? What's inside of it? And I find it interesting that we are going in that direction to analyze, because we do have answers which are transcendental, absolute, and complete. So we don't have in that way to look for anything there. We already have the complete picture of how the universe works. But to develop a dialogue as a preaching strategy is extremely valuable. And that's being done in many fields. And the movement benefits so much because our visibility just goes very high. And that is the same with ecology and Dharma, and I'm going to try to explain a little bit about it. Well, if you could say that today, this ambientalism is like a child. It's just learning how to walk and run. It hasn't started very long, you know? But everybody agrees that the backbone of this child, the spine, are the eco-spiritualities. And within that realm, we have the biggest contribution, I would say, because we have got the service to pass down Vedanta, which is a very powerful tool in understanding this universe, and not only this, but all the universes. So, eco-spiritualities is being very much looked at as something that is needed to keep ambientalism together. Otherwise, it just breaks into small movements which just lose their potency, lose their importance over time. And that was a quote by Bergman in 2006. He says exactly what I said. You know, that's what I just quoted him. You know, that's what he's trying to say. And as I travel around, I find that different ecological groups are looking for a spiritual, how can I put, comprehension, which can actually be very scientific and at the same time very inclusive. So those two elements are very present in our Vedanta. sustainability and Dharma. So let's first investigate sustainability and Dharma. When we look at sustainability, we first are looking at the term sustain, right? It comes from the root, the word sustain in English. Sustain and sustainability, to keep yourself. The Dharma comes from the Sanskrit root, drit, which is to sustain. So immediately there is a synergy in meaning. So we already seen that there's some connection at that level. But just when we talk about Dharma, Dharma can be the most complex thing of the universe. In our Mahabharata, when Bhishma Deva is lying on the bed of arrows, that is his statement. Dharma is the most complex thing to define, because Dharma actually can be looked for so many angles that to define it is very, very broad. But here I am bringing Dharma to two definitions. Looking at Webster, Chaneshwar, would you like to read what Webster says about Dharma?
Conformity to one's duty and nature.
So that's what Webster says. Yeah, that's what their definition of Dharma, right? What we learn from our Siddhanta, in this field, I want to bring two definitions of Dharma.
The innate characteristics of a being or a thing.
Something which is innate, something which can't be changed. Prabhupada usually talks about Dharma, that's something that can't be changed. And Prabhupada moves on his definition to
occupational duty, constitutional duty. That is called Dharma, functional duty.
He presents three terminologies extremely important. Constitutional duty. We're here defining Sanatana Dharma. We've discussed quite a bit about it. Our original Dharma as an eternal living entity. Then he brings constitutional duty. Duties which are born from our constitution, from our conditioning. And then functional duty is a third word that he uses, which may be beings which are not really thinking about the process. That may be, but we're going, this is the scope of Dharma which you're working with today. Is that clear? Because then we can have all questions of Dharma, but we are trying to define in that level. Just like fire. What is the Dharma of fire?
To burn and give light.
Yes, heat and light. Without heat and light, fire is not fire. It's just intrinsic to fire. So we can understand that different substances in the universe have certain dharmas, certain natures. Yes, we had a question?
Yes, you're talking about the three duties. I was just curious about, so there's one duty due to our material nature, and that would be the second one, was it?
Yes, occupational duty.
The occupational
Yes.
duty. And the constitutional is our
Original. That's Sanatana Dharma.
And the functional would be?
And the functional, Prabhupada in that sense didn't explain so much, but I'm thinking he's talking about a tree. A tree has a functional duty of the universe. And sometimes you might not know, but Smita Krishna Maharaj knows, when you hug a tree, some kind of something happens inside of you. I highly recommend this. Some say, I'm not quoting this as a scientific statement, but some say that the trees have the purpose to transform unresolved energies in the planet. So whenever there is unresolved energies, the trees take that responsibility to balance it out. Jai, Shishi Pancha Tattva Ki, Jai, Gaura Premanandi. Okay, so as we move on, constitutional duties, right? So let's have another reader. The microphone is there? You read it. You have the...
At the end of every 4 yugas, the great saintly persons, upon seeing that the eternal occupational duties of mankind have been misused, re-establish the principles of religion. 8.14.4, the system of universal law. Okay, now just pay attention to what Prabhupada says in the purport relating that. This is Bhagavatam. 8.14.4. Yeah?
In this verse, the word Dharma and Sanatana are very important. Sanatana means eternal and Dharma means occupational duties. The eternal occupational duty of the human being is to serve Krishna.
Okay? So, that's the eternal occupational duty. So Prabhupada has defined our occupational duty. And now, here we move on to a few other. So we've defined Dharma a little bit. Now what about ecology? What does ecology mean? Anybody has researched the term? It means two things. Oikos means a house, and logia means study. Basically, the study of the house. So we're going to have a look at our house. By the way, this house here belongs to the Yanomami tribe in the Amazon. And they had such a vision about nature and ecology. They were really experts, how they built their houses, how they did farming. Actually, there's such a thing called Terra Preta de Índio, which means the black earth of the Indians. Which is like they would go to a forest, they would burn the forest in such a way that the black soil content would increase. And what they have found, there are places where the black soil content is as deep, well, as to the bottom of this picture here. I've seen pictures like almost like 3 meters deep. And they did that by repeatedly burning the forest in a very controlled way and abandoning it and letting the forest grow again. And the content of organic black soil would be just increased. And so they're trying to understand how did they know this? But they were very much studying the house, how they could live. And just some agroecology scientists are saying that when you look at the Amazon, you see a green desert. It's green all over. It's like everything is green. Apparently, randomly. But now some anthropologists are finding that there are circular formations of trees. A rubber tree, a rubber tree, a rubber tree. And then there is a kind of pupunha, which makes this açaí. It's coming close. It's like a black ice cream. They get very popular around the world now. In Australia, you can buy it very expensive, but you can. So it's another kind of palm tree, palm tree, palm tree. And then they start to find patterns in trees. And they're wondering, how come such patterns have grown along the rivers? And now they're starting to think, maybe these Indians, they knew how to do it and let the forest grow until it became a system of food, a food forest. So all this is very interesting, and it's all coming to life in a great force. People are really looking for this information. And we have a lot to do with this, and I hope I can show it to you very briefly. Now, when you look at a house today, this is what a house is like today, you know? Familiar? We are using airplanes to spread pesticides. We are harvesting with combiners. You know, the result is we never had such a high rate of cancer as today, you know? And we were discussing the other day that the Parkinson disease comes from pesticides. It attacks the nervous systems. A bit like homeopathy, a drop every day until one day it hits hard. So we have to eat, we have to travel, and we're not really taking care of our food production, and now we see the results as we go on in life. So this is what our house is looking like, and there's a reason why it's looking like that. I'm not sure if you have analyzed it, but there's a reason for that. And the reason is here. Look at this. We are talking mechanicistic science, and at one point, humanity had this insight. And if I go around the other side, it's right here. We had the positivism, reductionism, mechanicism, and that hit all the fields. For agriculture, it was, we want quantity. Quantity will solve the problem. Never mind quality, quantity is the big thing. And that led to industrial agriculture. Okay? So that paradigm just evolved very fast. And it created some rebellion among thinkers, but it wasn't enough to stop them. Basically, the concept of the Industrial Revolution was, let's substitute animal power, human power, which is kind of, you know, the bull can get sick, the man can go to a marriage and not come back for his work. So let's change all this instability for something much more stable and reliable. Fossil fuels. Fossil fuel is a perfect machine. It will do the same work every day. I don't have to rely on anybody. They will not go to a marriage. They will just be solid and there. So that's the first concept. Now, while doing that, they forgot to analyze that. Look at how many people employed. Look on the top of each cart, how many people stay there, how many people to produce, how many people to unload. There's a whole ecosystem of humans and animals and plants. Okay? Now, if you look at all these bulls, they're engaged positively in the community. They have a place for it. Now, when you shifted to this industrial revolution and you came to this, the bulls are redundant. There's no space for them. What to do with them? This was around the 1920s. Massey and Ferguson, today known, Massey and Sons at the time, from Canada, they came up with one very good invention. Behind the tractor, there is something which you can adapt a rotor. It can do marvelous things on the fields. It can, you know, do your grains. It can rotate things. It's a power force. They had a patent on this. So the British people, who were very smart for many things, said, hey, you've got something we want. You become our dealers and suppliers of tractors for our big British Empire. That was the idea. So they sent a few of these to India, and they also sent the researchers. But what to do with the bulls? They're thinking. The solution came in the 50s, called McDonald's. That's the conclusion. If they're redundant, but to get to the McDonald concept of industry, they had to create a philosophy, and that was food. Meat is good for you. You should take protein from meat. If you don't take this meat, you become, white and pale, and you have all kinds of problems. And until this time, eating meat was not something we did every day. It's even people who ate meat every Sunday, they had to go and kill the animal. It was not something daily. But McDonald's is, we want not to eat one animal. We want to eat many at one time. That's what a hamburger disc is. It's a bit of flesh from each animal. So you actually have a bun of bread, and you have a trophy, which is your McDonald's, and it's now closed with another bun. And then you have now the ability to eat so many animals in one time. That's all what was the inner philosophy of it. But nobody was thinking about it. And it became just a craze around the globe. And then, as we go on, this is the dream, right? When you talk of the farmers, that's the dream. It's a combiner. And this company specifically, they want to take the driver from here. They want to take him out through here. They want this machine to drive on remote control. They're working hard for it. Why is that? Because they want that all these grains here are absolutely homogeneous. They want that all this wheat is exactly the same height, otherwise it's useless for this machine. If this wheat was all, the machine couldn't do their job. So then all of that reduction theory is here trying to make the wheats the same, the machines the same, eliminate humans, and be very efficient. That's the way the thinking process of the planet is. But we already know, and so does the scientific world, there's so many problems, hybrid varieties. What to speak about GMOs? There's so many hypotheses. And by the way, Monsanto, he just collapsed, and he was bought now by a bigger company, which now owns most of the seeds of the world companies. There's one big company coming up, which is really taking over. And the idea is to reduce variety, to have very few varieties. So many gluten intolerance, it comes from the way this food is produced. You know, what to speak about unemployment, rural populations, compactation of the soil, pollution, and so and so and so. So this system hasn't given what they were expecting. But still then, they're right there. Right? And this is Brazil or Africa or, they just took the best cows from India, made some engineering research, and they're just rearing them in the hundreds of thousands. Just to give you an idea, one big farm in Brazil is considered to have 200,000 cows. Nanda Maharaj had 9 lakhs, they have 2 lakhs. And these guys are very... And the idea is basically to raise them. Whoever is not useful, we kill. That's the idea. And that's creating huge problems for us, right? Now, what happened was, the people who were actually not agreeing with this model came up with many different ideas. And now we are here in these agroforestry systems, which is one of the most modern systems. I'm sorry. And basically they're saying like, conventional agriculture is like you look at a car, okay? And then you separate all the parts. You put corn here, you put beans here, you put oats here, you separate everything. But actually that's not how nature works. Nature works like a whole. So we're trying to work with nature in separate parts. And we're having a lot of trouble to replicate what nature does, because nature works like an organism. And that's something we wanted to say. So going back to us, that group, the pendulum came all the way back here, holism, systemicism, interdisciplinary approach, and that's where we're at today. People looking for this, right? And what it led to, very near here, you have the Steiners. In 1924, he came up with a whole natural farming system. We had also in India, the same tractor which went to India, they sent someone to teach real farming for the Indian people. Because they thought the Indian people are primitive, we have to really teach them how to farm. So this sir called Sir Albert Howard, some of you may have heard his name. Have you heard his name? Anybody? Yes, Maharaj has. Prahlad has. Okay, not many of you. Sir Albert Howard was a botanist, and he went to India to teach this farming we're talking about, machines and fertilizers. When he saw what was happening in India, he saw many insects but no pests. He was bewildered. And because he was humble, he went down and said, I want to understand what's happening here. And then he became the father of the organic farming in the West, right? He just came up with the organic farming, right? And all of then we have in the 70s the permaculture, and recently syntropy. So this is what is happening here. The main thing is environment and quality. We want quality. But we were having a little trouble with quantity. People would say, very nice, very beautiful, but we have a big population. How are you going to feed the people? So in the 70s, a movement called agroecology in America came up saying, all right, we are going to bring quantity and quality together. That's our challenge. And they did a lot of work. They were basically looking at agricultural system, ecology, indigenous knowledge, looking how the Indians work, how the traditional populations work, rural development, and traditional knowledge, okay? So they're looking at this as agroecology. But still, here's the main point of the lecture today, they missed out that the man is part of this. What is the Dharma of man into this? So therefore, our ecological movements only focus on nature, ecology, crops, systems. But what about man in the whole system? How does it play? Okay? So that's why we're proposing that instead of agroecology, Dharma and ecology. That's the missing link. Okay? And as we move on, we explain a little more about this. Part of Dharma is humility. Pride distances one from Dharma. And every time one civilization became very proud, like the British people, the sun will never set in the British Empire. Today sets all the time because it takes so much time to start in London. The sun gets up in London, and it goes very soon. So you see, pride just comes, and England now has so many problems, you know, there's so many difficulties, including ecological. So the Dharma is very much connected to humility. And here's a question, why is the forest in balance? Have you ever thought about that? We always think the forest, it's in the mode of goodness. Any more ideas? Why is the forest in balance? Diversity. We can just one quick words. You don't need a mic. Okay.
No humans interfering.
No humans interfering. The forest is kind of sacred. Okay.
And say humble as a tree.
Humble as a tree.
There is a humility in trees.
The tree is humble. Wow, that's a good one. I'm going to collect that one.
Coexistence.
Coexistence. There's a coexistence. Very good. It functions as a unit, as a body. Very good one. I like that. The children at the back, or the young boys, or the young men. Why is the forest in balance? Why is it cool? He said something. What did he say? I couldn't hear. You can't say anything at the moment. That's all right. That's all right. We'll go back to you. Yes?
Forest is closer to Dharma than that of today's human being.
The?
Forest is closer to Dharma than today's human being.
To the Dharma? Did you say? The forest is close to Dharma than human being. What a statement, huh? Well, we learned that there are very good cycles in the forest. There's cycles of water, nutrients. The forest successions is all there. All of this is there, right? Energy accumulation. Life flows in cycles, okay? So you can all see those life flows very clearly in the forest. It's very obvious when you go to a protected natural forest. So what they're doing now is they're trying to replicate the forest as a mechanism. This gentleman here, he's somewhere in the picture, he just said, all right, what if we plant trees and we simulate how the forest works? And he created the syntropic agriculture movement. And I'm going to explain a little bit what that's all about soon. 5 principles of it. The soil is always covered. There is a maximization of photosynthesis, natural succession, stratification, and there's a management of that forest. And that allows you to be in harmony with your crops. Why is the forest in balance? Well, your answer is right. I mean, each species is doing their functional duty according to their nature. Everybody is doing. So then you get homeostasis. You get balance, equilibrium. Yeah? Like this. They're following Dharma, the laws of nature. So you can see that in an atomic level, there is a formation which reflects on the plants, which reflects. And when you sit near a very old forest, you can just feel it. There's a kind of vibration which is completely different when a place which has been kind of interfered on. We were in a forest in Brazil, and there's 300 years old trees. It's amazing. I'm sure Maharaj has experiences of forests like this, where you go in, you just feel that vibration of... Have you some experience? Something like that, right? So everybody is following. So we talked about intelligent design, but we do see that there's definitely a kind of structure which, when it's there, it is conveying balance, it is conveying function. We can see that very obviously. But who taught succession to the forest? That's a question to put for our evolutionists, right? They may say it was by accident, or they have many explanations, the right circumstances. But actually the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavatam has the Bhagavad Gita says, who can read that for me?
The material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction. O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again.
Such a simple explanation. Now, you may say, all right, for a devotee, that's a very good explanation, but what about for the world? There's something we need to consider in the first canto of Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, verse number 2-7, it says that when you practice devotion service, you get renunciation and causeless mercy, causeless knowledge, causeless knowledge. Have you ever thought what causeless knowledge means? Again? Revealed from within. That's a good idea. This is something Jiva Goswami says. I just wanted to share. Anybody has another idea? Huh? Transcendental knowledge. Yeah, but some people read it and they kind of understand it. Some people read it and don't understand it. Intuition. Jiva Goswami says, he explained that causeless knowledge means you read it and you understand it. That's causeless knowledge. How interesting. So it seems that knowledge here for Jiva Goswami means that there's a relationship between knowledge and the reader. It's not just a content which is on the book, but there is an interaction. So for us, I'm sure, does anyone in this room disagree with this statement from Krishna? That means you all had causeless knowledge. And why is that? Because we are doing devotional service. So that knowledge will be revealed by the process of devotional service. And that's Narottam Das Thakur's theory as well. Sorry. Yeah.
And also, it's understood maybe as it is.
As it is. Yes, yes, as it is gives the proper Siddhanta according to all the acharyas on that, yeah. And the purport, Prabhupada says that, let's have someone on this side read. So we have an equal participation. This is Prabhupada saying the purport of that verse.
It is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Will and the background of this material manifestation, but the management is being conducted by material nature.
What a wonderful explanation. So Lord is aloof, but at the same time, He is guiding the management of it. How much could we deal with that in our... And here's another important tool, which was actually the theory of Murli Gopal Prabhu last year. Any idea what it is? Another tool to understand? Yes, the three modes of material nature, right? With the three modes of material nature, you can actually see that there's a whole spectrum which is possible here. And through the three modes, we can actually understand so much of what's happening there. The Bhagavad Gita, it says, the material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, Almighty Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. He is our philosophy around it. We are conditioned by the material modes, right? Just like a tree, a beautiful tree. Maharaj, you recognize this picture? From your book about trees, the secret about trees. The secret life of trees, right? There's a certain of those combinations which allow them to be here in that specific form. And we could understand them. Because living entities have different kinds of bodies in terms of the different aspects of nature, they're induced to acting according to that nature. This is the cause of the varieties of happiness and distress. This is Prabhupada in the purport of that verse. Even food, this was the seminar of last year from Radha Vallabha Prabhu. Food in the mode of goodness. Everything is in the modes, right? Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purifies one's existence and gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, and pleasing to the heart. So now that should be our dietary recommendation. And here's the question, how relevant is this? If we produce our food which actually have these nutrients, we are actually building a very healthy society. Steiner would say that if your food doesn't have the nutrients you need, you won't have the determination to do what you decide to do in life. So some of our lack may be coming from not having our food. And here's another connection between food production and our duties. You have so many duties, we're getting sick in many cases, including me. So how are we doing food production in that sense? And Prabhupada says that in the 17.7, those who can understand analytically what kind of performance are and in what mode material nature are actually wise. He's saying what it is and how they work, they're actually wise people. So this made me think, we are not actually looking very much in our society how to understand the mechanisms we approach in terms of the modes. We say that the mode of goodness is our goal, but what does each technology in this room contribute to that? A computer, a recorder, how does it contribute? How does it contribute to our lifestyle? Another population called the Amish people have looked into that and they have had amazing results. So to be wise, we have to understand what kind of performance is coming from the modes, what are we getting as a society, right, to really become wise. It's not just yukta vairagya as a one fits all, that I can use it because I'm using the service Lord, but what kind of result that will have is really important. Because everything has a dharma, has an intrinsic nature. And once you get that, you're affected by the energy of that element. So that's something we wanted to say. And then when we look at this big discussion today, entropy and syntropy, are you familiar with entropy in this room? Okay, what would be entropy?
With time, there's disorder.
With time, everything is becoming disordered. Everything moves towards...
Okay. You want to say something, Woli? Go powerful.
It's a measure of disorder.
It's a measure of the disorder. Okay, good. And syntropy would be when there's a force which binds, which moves forward in a way. And I can give an example. Let's take one example of entropy material, entropic material. When you look at the cycle of carbon in the planet, all that organic matter gradually, over millions of years, filtered down into what we call petrol or oil. It's there. It's balancing the universe. So we very wisely drill the planet and bring that substance up, purify it, transport it, put it in a place to sell. All of you went there, filled your cars, and you came to this place, right? Now that energy which you use will not come back. That's gone. You have to get a new energy to put on your car to get you to back to where you came from. But that energy is gone. The result of that is that you have a mentality of scarcity. Humanity develops a mentality of scarcity because you always finish. Your mobile data is finished today. You have to buy a new one. Otherwise, you can't do your WhatsApp or your Facebook. You can't chat with your friends tonight. Isn't it? So it's always finishing. So you need to provide more. So there's a mentality of scarcity. Now, let's give an example of something which is syntropic. One of the very syntropic things is seed. And Subhag Swami was speaking about the banyan tree, that in a very tiny seed, a whole banyan tree is present. Right? That was his example. So from one seed, how many seeds can you get? You could get millions. You could get first 10, then 100, and then millions, right? So as you plant the seed, it perpetuates itself. There's a syntropic energy there. It's multiplying. It's going forward. Now, when we choose to take energies which are more the entropic side of life, we will be affected by that mentality. If we go towards the syntropic side of life, our life becomes abundant. Because you put one thing, it becomes a lot. Now, go to a farmer who just harvests his pumpkin field and say, would you please give me a pumpkin? You can take all you want. I have so much pumpkin, I could never eat it, and I won't sell it. So you please, he's imploring, please take. Now, someone has just got their salary at the end of the month, and they got a raise, triple salary. And you approach them. Do they have the same feeling? Oh, I have so much money here. You just take my money away. Have you experienced that? Not yet? Maybe that's coming from an entropic side of life. And that feeling of, you see, so the dharma of that energy does not allow that activity. But when you move towards syntropic movements, syntropic people, abundance is present. Time is present. Food is present. Relationships are present. Here you have a lack of relationships. Everything is mechanized, which means entropic. You don't have time. You have to take care of your machines. You have to get money to pay your machines. You have the tax of the government. Everything gets you in a circular thing. You can't get out of it. But as we shift to a syntropic movement, then we start to get abundance. And with abundance, you can actually have time. And from time, you can have spiritual life. So that was the synthesis of our founder Acharya with farm communities. That's the whole formula. And now we're going to go a bit on. So even when we explain syntropy and entropy, we have so much to contribute to the discussion going on about forest development, about ecology, about how to help the planet. Now, let's go a little bit deeper and let's look at the relationship between cows and Dharma. Look at a beautiful picture. This is from the 18th century. I got this picture from John Malay, one of his favorite artists. He liked to paint cows. Doesn't it convey a feeling of goodness? End of the afternoon, there's a lady, she's taking care of her cows, and very lovingly. We even think she may have a name for each cow, we don't know, but maybe not, but it gives that mood. What is the relation with cows and Dharma? Is there such a relationship? We established Dharma and sustainability and Dharma. Now, Dharma and cows. Jai, Srishi Panchatattva Ki. So, Govinda seems to think there's a relationship. What is this Dharma and cow? Is there any relationship in your opinion? Anybody? Yes? What relationship, Moli Gopal Prabhu? Oh, okay.
On material level, all the cow products are used for either humanity or farming. For example, cow urine, and nothing is wasted. So much so that even when cow possesses her body naturally, the skin of the cow is used for preparing mridunga, which we used in the kirtan.
How significant, right? The skin of a cow produces the material which will inflect a sound which will remind us of the spiritual world and drive us to go back to Godhead. And what a service.
Cow skin is the only thing which is used for preparing mridunga. No other skin is used there.
Right.
On a spiritual level, it is said that 33 crore demigods stay into the body of the cow. If cow is pleased, Govinda is pleased.
Great. I know you're a great learned scholar on this. Can we hear somebody else? We want to hear more from you soon. Dharma and the cows and Dharma.
Well, it is said that during the creation, when Lord Brahma was creating like the different species and like that, when the humans were created, also the cows were created, for the sustenance of these middle planetary systems.
Wow! Well, what a wonderful piece of information on this side.
The cow takes very little and gives very much.
The cow takes very little and gives a lot.
She takes a little and gives a lot. So maybe her dharma would be to supply humanity. Yes, at the back.
We were asking the dharma of the cow is to be a mother.
Okay, the dharma of the cow is to be a mother. Okay, so what is the dharma of the cows? Well, first of all, the cow gives birth to a bull. And the bull, what is the bull according to our Bhagavatam scripture? His dharma himself, right? So what a connection. Dharma in the Bhagavatam 1:16-25. All personality religious principles in the form of a bull. So the bull and dharma interchangeable terms. So right from the cow, she's giving birth to dharma personified. So what a connection between dharma and, right? And then we have a second relationship. What's happening here? Also from the Bhagavatam. Huh? Yeah, it's Goloka, but what's happening? What activity?
We are taking the body after giving it to the cows.
Oh, yeah.
They have had enough.
I think they're very satisfied and they're peaceful. Otherwise, they'll be like begging Krishna and Balaram, but they're just lying there. They might have their bellies full and they're just watching peacefully them. Yeah, actually the Bhagavatam says this, Gam, the cow, Cha also, Dharma Dhugam, beneficial because one can draw religion from her. So it is said that the milk is the liquid form of Dharma. And why is that? Because from the milk you can produce yagya, which is a central component of Dharma. And then from yagya you can get rains and you can get grains and you can get sustenance for the universe and for everybody. So you see how the cow is again right at the center of this, what I call the biological engine of the universe. She's giving the nutrients so we can exist peacefully in this environment. And here, revealingly, in the 11th canto, Krishna is saying, Gavyam, Ajam, Havishu, Aham. From all the oblations in a fire ceremony, what is Krishna? Panchagavya. Krishna himself is the Panchagavya. Now, what a connection between the cows and Krishna. He takes all of this. He mentioned the 33 million demigods take place in the body of the cow. Lakshmi herself, she came late to the party, so she's in the cow dung. So cow dung reflects opulence, and there's a reason for that in the blueprint of the universe. Now, when you go to divinity, cows, and Dharma, we've seen how Krishna and the cows are so interconnected, and we see that, look at this verse. Can we recite it together? Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Dithaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So the word Hitaya comes 2 times. The ones who protects, who gives benedictions. Right? And so Krishna is the one who protects humanity, who is a well-wisher, the benefactor of humanity. How does he do that? He does that through the agencies of Go, which comes first, and the Brahmans. Because as we have discussed, the cows give all this environment for humanity to exist very peacefully. And the Brahmans give all the knowledge through which you can understand how the universe works, how your life works, and finally how you can get self-realized and go back to Godhead. And that will be the sum mission of humanity on this planet. So, right here in this sutra, we have a relationship between Krishna, Go, and now we establish how the cows and Dharma is so connected, and how Dharma and ecology is so connected. It's a whole field of interaction which our philosophy is full on. So we have to take charge of this field and start interacting with them, discussing and showing relevant studies on that field, right? And it's also said, Akila Dharma Bhavanam, who is the master of all religious principles or the occupational duties for human beings? That's Krishna. So Bhagavatam, Krishna is also the master of occupational duty, the master of Varnashram, if you want to put it this way. And not only Varnashram, because that's for humans, but for all the functional duties of the universe. Now, if you look also into milk, only in Ayurveda, it says that 18 main properties of milk. Swadupaka. After you eat, it becomes sweet. Usually we eat something sweet, it becomes acid. But milk, you eat it, and at the end of digestion, it's in a sweet form. Shushuma, aha, it's a balanced diet. So much so that the sages would only drink milk to survive. Ojo Vardhanam increases vital force energy. There are 18 properties and cures regarding to milk. And there are 9 supporting qualities of milk as a diet. Shrama Hara takes away the fatigue. Brahmana Hara takes away dizziness. Shaivasa Hara helps with breathing problems, etc. So all of this is Ayurveda. All coming from the milk. So you can see, as we investigate this field, you see how much there is connection. Okay? But all of this poses a challenge for the Vaishnavas, right? And what is the challenge? The challenge is this. Da-da-da-da. Can anybody read out aloud?
To show a functional system for producing milk from protected cows and the benefits of such milk for the upliftment of consciousness.
So how to show this model? So that we can come to a farm and say, look, we produce milk in a dharmic way. And here it's how feasible it is. We want to show you. Come and see. And he comes out convinced. Says, yes, you're right. I want to join you. Right now he's saying, to do this we need help. Give a donation, which is okay. It's an intermediate stage. But we need to come to the point where we say, look, this is such a beneficial and dharmic thing. It's so much in their functional duty to do this, that without external help, the system is supporting you, is giving you all the power of the forces, right? So that's a challenge for us. And to do that challenge, you see, this year, the GBC body, which is the big governing commission managing our institution, made this resolution. I like to read it nice and loudly and pausingly. Who would like?
By Janmashtami 2022, all ISKCON centers should develop a plan whereby all milk and milk products, butter, ghee, yogurt, etc., offered to the deities are procured from protected cows. The centers may approach the International Ministry of Cow Protection for assistance.
So this is a presentation of Dharma, a little report what we're doing. So two things important. Janmashtami 22 is a deadline for a plan. The GBC body is expecting that every temple has a plan, even if the plan takes 10 years. So we can't do anything before 10 years, but why not? It must be an explanation, not just that I'm pushing to 10 years away. I have an explanation. Because of congregation, funds, finance, logistics, government, I have an explanation. But if I don't have, what is your plan? So why that's important? Because now the GBC body made a statement, and the statement landed on the altar of our loving deities. Every altar is thinking about this. And that's awesome, because that is creating an impetus for us as a society to think, all right, the planet is reacting to the way they're treating the cows and bulls. Many people become vegans because they caught part of the argument very correctly, that this is not right. This system is destroying the planet. I cannot agree to it. So I'm going to excuse myself from it. I'm not going to do anything with it. That's part of the explanation. But the other part is they're missing out that the cows and the bulls and the milk are part of the Dharma of the universe. They are present in the heart of Dharma. So you can't remove them and have Dharma function again perfectly. It will have many problems, including, I'm going to show a few of them that we may run into. There's a book coming up. This book is just published by Macmillan, Palgrave Macmillan, which is a very prestigious printing house. Actually, this Macmillan, Prabhupada wanted to print his Bhagavad Gita so badly from Macmillan in the beginning, right? But this company, this printing agency, came to Krishna Kshetra Swami and said, we want a book on cow care in the Hindu Dharma by a practitioner of Bhakti. We want their perspective. And he did it. The book is ready. And the book was going to cost some 30 euros, but he fundraised and he gave to the agency $70,000, and now it's an open access. So the good news is the book will be free. Everybody would be able to download it. And he really explored a lot of these issues that we're talking about in this book. So more is coming up, and it's really exciting news for us, because even important printers are thinking about this. Now, did you know this? How many of you knew this? Maharaj knew, okay. Anybody else? 2, 3, 4. 4 people knew. Isn't that curious? Now, we're talking of design, we're talking of nature. Why wouldn't they have the top teeth, you know? Some kind of dentist came there. What happened to them? There's a reason. Can you anticipate the reason? Let's go to the boys who are working with the cows. Why the cows don't have the teeth on the top? Anyone? It doesn't matter if you just give an idea. Whatever idea it is, we'll be welcome. They're thinking, still thinking. They want to risk. Okay, all right, we'll come back to you sometime. Anybody else would like to risk? They don't have any teeth. Can you see any teeth? Nowhere. At the top. They don't need it. They don't need it. Why don't they need it? Well, look at this. They don't want to bite. Yeah, you see, because the gum and the tongue works like a blade. So the tongue of the cow goes. She catches the grasses, and then she cuts with the lower teeth, and then she eats it. Then later on, she'll come back and she'll go to the rumination process. Okay? So now look at this. Thinking about this, some researchers in Australia called holistic management said, if you cut the grass, let them eat 90%, it's almost very minimal, you stop the growth root. The growth of the roots stop. And they stop for 100% for 17 days. So there's almost, the growth stops, the grass becomes very weak. If you let it be 70%, if they eat 70% of the grass, they stop 50% for 17 days. But if you just graze them 50%, you don't stop the root growth. So how does that information is important? If you manage your pasture lands adequately, the cows will always be doing their function. What is their duty? They're always grazing. So that is one of the occupational duties. They graze. And with taking very little, they give so much. So by doing it properly, your grass is healthy. The top part of the grass is the most nutritious part of the grass. And here comes the exciting news. Are you ready? Do you want to know? Are you sure? Some scientists have been researching that one of the substances in the brain called DHA, it's a big name, DHA for short, it's a fatty omega-3 acid which composes about 40 to 50% of the brain tissues. And this fatty acid is found in algae, is found in meat, and found in milk. Milk. So they started researching. And some devotee scientists started saying, oh, Prabhupada says you have to drink milk to refine, to nourish the finer tissues of the brain, to understand transcendental topics. So now there's a connection between the milk and this, but the cow cannot produce that substance. It has to take from somewhere. So they start looking. And they found that the tip of the grass, of certain grass, have a high level of DHA. So when cows are grazing in the proper fields, the level of DHA is really high, which gives a really good milk. Which gives milk with this DHA level high, which when you take, it will nourish the finer tissues of the brain. Now, isn't that what Krishna was doing? He wasn't taking the cows to the same forest. Today is Talavan, tomorrow he goes to Kamyavan, and the next day he goes to Vrindavan. So he's going to different forests. So apparently Krishna is letting the grass rest, and then he's coming back. He's picking the spot where he's going to take 900 cows to graze, right? And this is another picture. You see a poor soil, what happens to the roots. And that really reduces the power. And we could have a whole talk about this, because actually, when we look at this, this is where all the microorganisms live. And that's where they will create nutrition for the soil. Each microorganism produces one type of nutrient. And that nutrient will be absorbed by the roots and then come back. So there's a cycle here. When you have few roots, your nutrition becomes weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So we could actually talk about some of this. This is a passage from Bhagavatam. I just want to mention one part here. Nanda Maharaj is talking to Vasudeva when he's going to pay some taxes to Kamsa. And Vasudeva says to Nanda, this is what he says. And in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, this means that there must be forests and adequate pasturing grounds full of grass and water. If these animals are happy, there will be ample supply of milk from which human beings will benefit by deriving many milk products which to live happily. Without giving proper facility to the animals, how can human society be happy? Vasudeva is asking for forests, not only pasturing grounds. And we can talk about the cow dung, how beneficial it is. There's so many bacteria living there. When it's properly done, these galleries, when it rains, will fill with water. So your soil becomes like a sponge. So whenever the rain comes, instead of a runoff, it will actually penetrate the soil and will actually be absorbed by the soil, which makes fertility go. Right? So look at that. when you have 6% of organic matter, how much water can you store in the soil compared to this? You see? 25,000 gallons to 150,000. It's a big difference. So the soil becomes a reservoir of water, right? Not only the soil, but also the forest. So in Brazil, for example, they're trying to combine. They're starting to understand that the forest and the cows have something in common. They haven't read the Christian book yet, but they got a glimpse. So they came up with eucalyptus and the zebu cows. But look at that, nice shade, the grazing pastures are here. It's already looking a little bit okay. There's some problems there, but it's okay. They're starting to look in the right direction. This is Krishna. That's what he does every day, isn't it? So, what's happening here? They're coming home or they're going out? Let's try to figure out. They're coming home, right? So they have gone to the forest, they're coming home. There are more cows than people. How are the cows grouped together? By colors. Are they far? Are they close? How are they walking? Very tight. There's a huge amount of cows together, right? Now look at this. This is quite exciting. I'll first go to this one. Yes. This gentleman is Alan Savory, who is famous. He made some speeches on the internet, on TED Talks about holistic management. And what he's saying is, if you put many cows together and they walk tightly, their hooves, the cow dung and the urine passed fertilizes naturally the soil. You don't need a tractor. You just use this technology. And you actually, he's going to plan grazing. Now you do this trip, only eat 50%, go on, and he's actually looking at that. And this gentleman called Brian is in Australia. He's coming to teach us about this in the conference which is going to happen there. So he's a disciple or a student, and he's going to teach us. We find that working with them is too expensive, and if they come, there's nothing happening on our farms that much, so they become disappointed. So we go to the students. We're more like learning, they're more like initiating, so they're more flexible. So we want to learn from that. And this slide here, this gentleman here called Ernest Gitt, he's from Austria, and he's created this agriculture called syntropic farming. You can research on the internet and you see many videos. Basically, what I said, how to reproduce the system of the forest in food production. How to create a food forest. And this is his disciple called Tiago from Brazil. So he went to give a course in Costa Rica, and I told him, let's meet in Ecuador, we have a farm there, come and teach us. And he did for about 3 days. Do you know what happened? In the second day, he was so convincing that everybody got completely fired up. What did he say? Everybody can do 1 square meter a day. 1 square meter of food a day. So second day, 2, 3, 4, until you have like 365. And if you have 3 devotees, you have 1,000. With 1,000 square meters, you experience your garden here, you can produce so much food. And then you can start to have this syntropic chain coming to your kitchen. Then your buddhi will be very activated, and then you need to activate the goshala. The milk is coming, the ghee is coming, and that the two combination will make a really strong generation for the future. So we are trying to join these two gentlemen, Ernest and Alan, and this is the system we're looking at. There is, of course, this model here is for the tropical belt of the planet. On one end we have forests of different species, fruits, bananas, guavas, papayas, mangoes, mandarins. You can explore, jackfruits. You can go on and on with this list. Huh? And then what he does is he prunes and it brings it down. It's cut and drop, cut and drop, cut and drop. And he creates a whole atmosphere of food here. Now, when you cut a tree, the tree is in stress. It thinks, I'm going to die. So it sends all nutrition to the roots to try to grow again. That nutrition expands the number of bacteria of life there. That life comes to eat what he put here. So he's creating a biological engine of fertilization, a permanent one. You don't need to bring cow dung here. It's right there. And instead of bringing the cow dung, bring the cows. So they eat, and then leave that grass to grow. They eat. So that's the system we're trying to develop for the tropic belt. We still have to develop one for the temperate zone, which may be a little more with pine, with forest woods, with some fruit trees like apples or pears. We have to think. But it's possible. I've discussed with them. Temperate is possible to do syntropic farming in temperate countries. All right? And yeah, I mean, we are coming, we have some little time for questions. So this is what we're doing. We started in Europe, number one. Smita Krishna Maharaj was present in the first farm conference in New Vrajadam, was it? 2008, he was there. And the idea was they wanted to get together and spread the idea, you know. And after 7 years, I went to this conference to learn and start spreading it. So we spread it to North America, South America. They're having their 3rd edition this year. They just had their successful conference in South America. We had all these syntropic farming discussions. They were really fired up. And we're heading to New Vrindavan for 50 years of cow protection. We are hoping, we are praying that Paramananda Prabhu, the first devotee who Prabhupada instructed on cow protection in ISKCON, will come. He and his wife Satyabhama took care of the Kaliya. Do you know the Kaliya cow? The first cow, which was only one eye, that Radhanath Swami speaks about? They took care of that cow in New Vrindavan. And actually, they are trying to give make a plaque and honor their efforts on that. And that's going to happen here. We invited His Holy Radhanath Swami, but he'll be in Vrindavan. So he says, I will attend, but I will not attend. Because I'll be in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is none different from New Vrindavan, so I will attend. So I asked him to make a recording, and he says he will. Let's see. And then we have a conference coming up in Russia, in Siberia, and Australia. India has started, Africa. So our idea is to initiate this whole chakras of knowledge on agriculture, ecology, sustainability, and create many opportunities for the devotees around the globe. And this is Australia. Look, they have a very nice team. This is Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. He had a very serious problem of dialysis, and he was very depressed, but he decided to take care of the bulls. And he says, that's my inspiration to continue life. And he comes every day to train the bulls. He's really fired up. So he takes care of the bulls. This is Gita. She takes care of the retired cows. So she goes to the forest, and all the cows are there in the forest. And this is Karunamai Mataji. She used to be a vegan. She came as a volunteer. And she said, well, the way you treat the cows is so beautiful. I want to be part of this. So she became the cowherd. So she became the cowherd of New Govardhan. So now, this is a system we're looking for in the ministry. Someone who takes care of the bulls, called Nandishala. Someone who takes care of retired cows, Go Sadan. And someone who takes care of the Goshala, the productive part of the system. All are productive, but this will be the most productive part. So they already put in place the system. It makes it easier to fundraise. Because, I mean, if someone is unemployed and I say, look, give a hand, this young man is unemployed, everybody will help, right? So here you have Lokanath, who's very hardworking, and he's doing the tractors. And I told him, what about the bulls? He said, well, maybe sometime. I said, they're unemployed. He said, but at least I'm employed. Which is interesting, because he works so hard. I was amazed. He did the whole cutting of the hay. He's preparing for the baler to come, and he does it alone. So all glories to his service. And what we need to do to him is add someone who will start doing the bulls, and hopefully over time there will be like more help, and we can do a little bit with the bulls until we can say to the tractor, we give you back. We don't need you anymore. We have enough strong men here to do it on our own.
Who does the cows here?
Huh?
Who does the cows here?
We have here a young lady. She's right in front. She's very shy. And she's also from Finland. Is it? Yes. So two combinations which are very unique. I heard that the Finnish people don't say hello very much. Is that true? Anyway, but she's doing a wonderful service. I go by the Goshala every day, and she's there cutting the hay and serving the cows and doing very selflessly. Oh yes, I forgot. I also saw, and maybe you could say about, they're also working? They're doing good work? See? The boys, and that was so inspiring. I saw 2 or 3 boys, actually maybe 4, feeding the cows and cleaning and doing such a beautiful work. For me, that was a signal of hope. Because I said, if they see the potential that this has in the future, they will really do. Yes?
I was taking care of the cows from 1982 to 2013.
Wow. So we have to... Hare Krishna for the service. We should have a little bit of a plaque in the Goshala in glorification of his services, right? Okay. That's what it looks like, you know, the cows there in this farm, they go, this is a 1-day cell, a 2-day cell, 2-day cell, a 4, so they go around like this, and then they make the whole month of it. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that there is a Grihastha couple here, Mukunda Prabhu and Jivakesha Prabhu. They have organized it every Monday. They make two teams, one girl team, one boy team of our children and youngsters here. So every Monday they make an hour or so service at the barn, even after school in the afternoon. So then 1 week the boys help to take care one Monday, and then next Monday the girls. So this is a steady the whole year.
Thank you for that, because as we have mentioned a few people who take care of the cows, Mukunda Prabhu has been constant here. We've been talking a lot, and he's got great ideas, and he supports the Goshala, he trains people, he looks for people who can work with it, he makes videos, he inspires, he's always thinking about it, and his wife too, with the camp. And we have a couple here, which is Tribanga Prabhu and Malya Harikunda Mataji, who are always thinking about this and always trying to bring the ministry here. And finally, we have Maharaj, who is the Minister for Europe of Cow Protection and Agriculture, who also has personally taken care of cows. So you have a whole culture mood here in Ambik, which is really exciting. Exciting because many places people are not aware of the importance of the cows in Bhakti.
Do you have the woofer system here, like in Australia?
They have some, I'm not sure, maybe some other...
We had the European Voluntary Service project from the EU, but we stopped it because they have changed the whole system. Yeah. So we had it for 3 years. We had volunteers, 3-4 volunteers.
So is the woofer system in Europe?
This is another system. It's not a woofer. We had that before also, a woofer here, but they were very for short time here, and it was not working so well. And then we had more serious, I would say, volunteers coming for longer periods, like 4 months or 6 months or even 1 year, to help with the cows and growing vegetables. So we had that.
I would like to make a comment on this, because in that project I showed that cowherd girl, she came as a volunteer from the woofer system. And they have each time 35 volunteers who are working constantly on the farm. And it's a very interesting system. Each department head, the one who's landscaping, the gardener, the Goshala, comes and says, I need 3 people, I need 2 people, and then 6 a.m. in the morning they make a big circle and say, all right, we need 3 people for the Goshala, any volunteers? And then, okay, and then they make teams, and then they do their service, and then they come back. And from this system, from spending $2,000 to maintain, today they get $1 million profit per year. They developed the whole volunteer system to a very professional level. They get labor, and they get inspiration, and they get Lakshmi.
And these people become devotees.
And these people, which is the most important part, I would say, because she's an example. She came from the woofers, and then she went to become a Krishna Pada, which means someone who's got money, independence, but you can experience bhakti. And then, when you become very serious, you move into the ashram and you become a full-time devotee. So, there is a little level, a gradient of evolution in bhakti. And that system is very interesting. We're also trying to bring that system in general, right? And now you say, maybe we have some problem. What about producing pumpkins in Siberia? Siberia only has 3 months, 2.5, 3 months to produce food, okay? And pumpkins last 4. So how do you do that? How do you do that? No greenhouse. There's no greenhouse here. It's open. How do you do that? This young man is so resourceful. He's the one doing the Russian conference in Siberia. What he understood is cow dung composes and becomes hot. So if I put enough cow dung in the soil, I will heat up my soil. And he got 1.5 months extra growing season because of that. So he was so smart that he actually harvested pumpkins and melons in Siberia. So he said, if you made it in Siberia, nobody else can make a claim. We can't do this, right? And he started with a few cows, getting about 20 liters of milk a day. And now he's got 100 cows, and the same cows are giving 200 liters of ahimsa milk a day. They make cosmetics. They make the most incredible condensed milk you could ever imagine. It's such a treat. Basically, they make paneer, they put condensed milk on top, and they put nuts on top. It's like when you eat these things, wow, what's this? It's kind of very strong. I eat a little bit. But they do awesome things. They're taking care of housing. They had 30 hectares, now they have 160 hectares. There's a lot of land to buy around them, a lot of potential. And the spiritual master, His Grace Chaitanya Chandra Charan Prabhu, really thinks that they should be wealthy, healthy, and develop in Krishna consciousness. So they are really booming. And I think we need more of that. And we are trying to increase that mood that we already have a lot. We don't have to think how bad we are, we have to think how good we are. We already have so many things in place. It's just a question of adjusting. And to end, this was about Dharma and ecology, but we could look at Dharma and leadership, which is a big topic. Dharma applied to the social systems. We talked about Varnashram. But actually, the native Indians had a lot of knowledge about this, how to engage one according to their nature. And I'll end by saying, then we can open to questions, that leadership is essential. We can talk about technologies. Hare Krishna, you look sad. Something happened to you. Okay. Oh, your brother, right? So immediately he took shelter of his leader, his father, right? So his father kind of comforted him. He's ready for the second round. There he goes. So leadership is essential. Leadership is the most essential thing. And a caring leader is someone that we need to develop. So we need to look at that in our farms. So Dharma, ecology, cow protection, agriculture, very much part of this scenario, but we need to produce leaders. Maybe they're sitting at the back of the room, unaware, but maybe. Who knows? Let's see. Right? So, yes, so that was the presentation I wanted to share with you. And if you do have questions, we have a little bit of time that we can use for those questions, those comments, those... Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, when I was a child, like my son, or maybe up to 6th class, like when I was 13 or 12, I have seen hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 of cows and buffaloes going together as you have shown in the picture. But almost in many places in India, in the villages, they are completely disappeared, almost at the extinct in villages. I would say I can see 30 to 40 from those 1,000. So my village is a village where people are a bit rich compared to the average thing. And they have taken Krishna consciousness because of Prabhuji called His Grace Gaurachandra Prabhu, disciple of His Holiness Subhag Maharaj, Bhakti Subhag Maharaj. They hear when you say, like at least 5 to 10% of people are chanting from very bad habits. That means they are taking up Krishna consciousness. To my father, how can I explain? I tell him many times, Papa, let's take a cow. She is Lakshmi Devi. She should be in front of. He knows that is good, but still he's not buying one cow. He bought a tractor recently.
He bought a tractor, okay.
Tractor, but
So,
not cows. So how can we explain to the people in general who has experience having cows, having paddy, but they are not having them anymore? So a person like me, how can I tell them to have a cow?
We can use many methodologies for this question. One methodology Narayani Mataji used was you chant Hare Krishna and the answer will appear. Another methodology is your father is actually a rational person on the ground. So he's saying, okay, you're telling me about the cow, very beautiful, but how will I maintain the system? So he's seeing that he's going to put money there and his work is not going to be done because there's nobody to plow the lands, to use the oxen. Everybody in India is using the tractors. So how? That's what the government of India is thinking. And do you know what they're coming up with? 1 liter of milk in India costs 35 rupees, about $0.50, around 50 cents, right? 1 liter of cleaning agent made from cow urine is worth $1. So they're saying, wait a moment, if you have the cow alive and she's producing urine, she's more valuable than if she's dead. So that's the first argument they're trying to convey. How to do that? They're developing like so many products which has a patent, research work, it's a market product, and the farmer goes and produces and gives the products, and so they start to keep cows more. So that's one line of argument. The cow is more worth alive than dead. The second argument you can give to them is, as soon as more research comes up about how milk is so essential for health, and mind you, the Tirumala Foundation gave to the Indian government $35 million only to research Panchagavya. $35 million. That was one institution of India. The government of India is putting millions of dollars to research the proper nature, composition of milk, Panchagavya, nutrients. What can you do with this? Fertilizers, so many things. So when that's developed, then your father will start thinking about it. That's in India. In North America, I just received from His Holiness Devamrita Swami. Let me see if I have it here, so I can be accurate to the source. Hold on, if I find Krishna. When you want to show some, yeah, okay. He just sent me this today, or yesterday night. And what he shared with me was, should be right here, yes, Devamrita Swami. It says, the title of it's from Yale University Publications. Could renewable natural gas be the next big green thing in green energy? Did you get it? Could renewable natural gas be the next big thing in green energy? So he sent me this article, and what's happening now, farms in America are starting to produce biogas from cow dung, from scraps, and not like a small thing like the biogas unit of India, but a huge plant which is producing tons of methane, clean methane, to fuel cars and houses and everything. So there's a whole big step. There you go. Now your father, when this kind of information, hey, you can make money with the cow dung, and he sees the color of the rupees, he says, yes, now you're talking. Now you got a point for me. And then you come with the spiritual. If you start with the spiritual, he will acknowledge, but he'll say, but in reality, my son, that's what I'm facing. But if you start by the function, putting the function ready, and then gradually the consciousness will come, and they will remember a time when they had 1,000 cows passing by, and how blissful that is. I was with His Holiness Bhakti Marg Swami in Kanpur, and we went for a morning walk on a village. What a blissful scene. The sun is rising, Brahmanas are chanting some mantras, ladies are taking care of the house, or milking the cows, young boys are taking cow dung on their head happily to the fields. There's a whole magical scene. The vibration of the village is very sattvic, it's very nice. So everybody who has been in India, who lived in a village, can recognize the image I'm picturing here. So once we start remembering them, they'll become very dear to these memories, and then they'll have a real case to show. We are making a lot of progress in ISKCON. But we can't really see it yet. It's on that developing stage. But I'm sure within the next 5 years, I'd say, we see a lot of developments in this field, and a lot of projects coming up. Yes, you had a question.
There is a comment followed by a question or challenge, and I do not know solutions till date. So right now in India there are hundreds of goshalas, but all are running on funds because the cow protection as of now in India is not self-sufficient, economically viable as of now. The reason being, an average cow gives only 3 liters of milk, 3 to 5 liters of milk, and which is not sustainable as of now. The food or which is needed for cow throughout the lifetime, the farmer has to give more and he earns less. There are reasons. 250 years back it was not the case for the Indian cows. The Indian cows used to produce almost 20 liters of milk, but because of the British rule they exploited farmers so much that the farmer has to sell the milk into the market rather than giving it to the calf. They stopped giving it to the calf, and gradually successive generations of the cows become weaker, and now it has come to 3 liters. That apart, the challenge for the today's farmer in India is that he wants to protect the cows. He does not want to send his cows to the slaughterhouse, but it does not become viable. Now, in order to make the cow produce 10 or 15 liters, several generations of the cow need to be given 100% milk. 2, 3, at least 5 generations, so that the next generation will be stronger and stronger and stronger. At least 5 generations. So how would the farmer sustain during this transition time?
Good question. I like to qualify 2 things. First information is that there is a myth that the cows, to become stronger, need to drink more and more milk. That information comes from the beef industry. And I'll tell you why. In the beef industry, if you feed the milk and they don't care of the milk, they're looking for the meat, the cows grow very fast. They gain bodily weight very fast. And that's wanted for them, because they're looking for the flesh. So we, in the organic farming, we have exported some of that information to our research. But in Indian system, the cows and the humans have always coexisted very nicely. What has happened is that grazing fields have been taken from the farmers. Every village in India had by law a grazing land which was given to them. And that land has been taken by industry, by urban developments, and the end of the story. The cows which become old have nowhere to go. So then you have a pressure on the system, number 1. Number 2, the Indian farming has left its golden age of Sir Albert Howard, where production was to the top. So you can imagine the amount of nutrition in a rice stalk. Today India is using NPK, all these chemicals, so the rice stalk is very poor. So you feed poor nutrition to a cow, it has a low production. So it's true, there's less milk. If a cow is giving 4 liters, and you have to take some for you, you're going to give minimum to the calf. But if the cow is going 20, then you can really give to the calf. So your point is correct. Now, what has happened in that soap opera? Indira Gandhi, she gave the semen of the best Indian breeds to Brazil in the 80s. Now, it's a big coincidence. She did that, and very soon, what happened? She was assassinated. So you can see some inner connection between things. Now, Brazil took that semen and developed those cows. You wouldn't believe it. The zebus in Brazil are so big. I mean, they're taller than, they're huge, you know? They're massive animals, which very peaceful, but very big. The Guzera was from Gujarat, or the Nelore, or even the Gir, which became a Girolanda. They're very productive. Now, India is buying from Brazil again to increase its population. So trying to answer your question, one thing which is stopping India from promoting the Indian breeds is the cow protectors. Because a mentality has developed in India that such as, if it's a Deshi cow, meaning a local cow, I protect. If it's a Jersey, you can kill. So that mentality has created a loophole where a farmer who wants to kill the cow says, well, I'll keep Jersey because you won't stop me. So when the Indian government is investing solidly in the, in the concrage as a very powerful breed and bringing to the farmer with 8 liters, 9 liters, which is very good, the farmers are rejecting. He's saying like 2 things. One, if I take this cow, I don't have grazing land and I won't accept it. And second, if I keep the Jersey cows, I can kill it, nobody will mind. So, we have to stop the selective slaughter mentality. That will help. A cow is a cow. And then the second thing I'll say is very helpful is when we prove that the cow is more beneficial alive than dead, that's there. Not only with the milk, but with the dung, with the cow urine, with the agriculture, with the whole spectrum. Then that will be really good. And that's coming. You see, India very soon will just like explode in that area. Many Goshalas are making big movements. And just to see, in Sweden, they're selling this milk at 8 euros a liter. Can you imagine? That's 80 kroner, is that Swedish krones? I heard. In Malmo it used to be 60 with Madhavapuri, I heard it's 80 here. In North America it's $3.50. In the UK it's £4. But you could say that the fluctuating price is around $3 to $4 a liter. Now, these conventional farmers are selling their milk at 50 cents, 60 cents, $1. So when the market understands that I have to have a different perspective on this, that's going to be a transition. Even in India, the moment someone gives a better price for the milk and the products, you see a difference there. Is that okay? Good. Yes, you have a question here. It's you. Yes. What is your name?
My name is Gustav.
Gustav. Okay.
So thank you for the presentation. And I was thinking, is there any parties or in industry which are actually lobbying against this type of farming or this cow protection to protect their own market?
You mean, is there an industry protecting these products of
I'm thinking the way we are farming now, people make money of that.
Right.
So we're actually creating some alternative. They will lose money if this becomes big, right? Mm-hmm. So my question is, are you facing any opposition or any people who are trying to undermine this?
We would be happy if we had some opposition. That means we are noticed. We're too small in the scale yet. We are not noticed. We are under the radar. But we can see that the vegan movement is on the radar. They have already been perceived because they are moving something like $20 billion next year in the US with this fake meat industry. So as soon as the market shows a different direction, they start to think about it. You see, in an airplane, you offered 6 vegetarian meals, vegan, Jain, or traditional. So things are changing. My perspective on this is that Prabhupada wanted all of us to live in communities, produce our food, have our own milk, and be a little independent from the system. That's his vision. The moment we show that, we'll be big. Everybody wants to come and learn from us. So the big work we're doing now is to generate knowledge, successful examples, models, and that will propagate. Just like Prabhupada did with ISKCON. And today ISKCON is everywhere. Every continent, every city, not every city yet, but every continent we could say, and very much present. And on a sweet note, to end on a sweet note, I can see how our leadership in ISKCON is so much favorable now, and I'm making solid plans for that. So we are representing the GBC body, happy to say that there is a shift of consciousness, and we're very hopeful that very soon we have more opportunities, and we're looking for more engagement. If you know people who like to engage, like the Bhakti Vedanta Institute, we're trying to connect with them. We're trying to connect with different agencies to promote and to to make this a reality. Okay? So time is passed in 10 minutes, so I have to thank you and ask you for your blessings that we can continue to do this service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Ambedkar Ki, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bho, Hare Krishna.